everybody, welcome to another comic episode of Game My Mom Found. I am Mike Albertin, and who's with me tonight?
I am Peter Bingham-Pankratz.
Welcome back.
Thank you. It's great to be back once again. I suppose I should have thought of a weird name for myself, like Red 2 or something.
I mean, everything in this book is like Cedrus is one of the names, or what are some of the other names that are like, I don't know, a lot of weird names in this book, I feel. Or names that just kind of like come out of nowhere. Characters but you know this famous character that we never introduced before? Yeah.
Right.
It's part
of the fun. It's part of the fun.
Oh, and Peter, where might people know you from?
Well, I have a series of books out, science fiction novels. The first one is called The Fifth Civilization. And if you haven't read it yet, check it out. It's kind of a good sci-fi adventure with lots of cool stuff going on.
All right. One day. One day I'll read it.
One day, eventually you'll get to it.
And you are here to join me to talk about Star Wars Dark Empire 2 and Empire's End to wrap up the Dark Empire little comic series. This is Star Wars Dark Empire. Came out in 1994 to 1995 in a six-issue monthly series that I've never read before.
Yeah, it's one of the for me is one of the most important comics that I read growing up, because I think it was. I didn't really read the Marvel issues. I got into it in the Dark Horse era, so I think this was the first one I picked up. And this was, of course, in the dark times of Star Wars before even the special editions were out. I was reading this one, and this kind of got me on the Star Wars kick.
You know, I forget. Yeah, good point, because this is all before. When did the prequels come out? Like late 90s, right?
Prequel came out in 99. For a long time in the 90s, there was always rumors that they would be coming out, but for a long time, all we had were comic books and novels and assorted video games. And that's how you got your Star Wars fix. There were no movies, and as far as we knew, there probably wouldn't be movies. So.
You know, if we only knew, that wouldn't be a bad thing.
Right.
So, we did cover Star Wars Dark Empire on an early episode, so we're not really going to touch on that. There will be spoilers, but this is no longer canon. This is Legends, and this is from 1995, so, 25 years, it doesn't matter. But so we're not going to talk about Dark Empire, but go check out that earlier episode to get caught up in the first 6 issues of this series, because this takes place, I think, 6 months after the end of the first Dark Empire. Yeah,
something like that. I think in the opening text it says something like that, and it supposedly takes place. What'd you cut? I think it takes place 6 years after Return of the Jedi as well. So
okay, I remember somebody said something about 10 years, but maybe they were talking about.
I think it was 10 years from the Battle of Yavin. And but then I think 6 years since the Battle of Endor. So the timeline's a little. Yeah. So 6 years after the Emperor has supposedly died. To catch up, of course, in Dark Empire 1, it finds out that the Emperor has returned through cloning, and he wants to take the galaxy once again.
Imagine that. An evil guy wants to still be evil.
Wow. No one's ever used that plot ever again.
Nope, he never came back. They just retired him, and that was the end of that. Yep.
Right, exactly.
This book, one, it's the same artist, it's the same writer. The art style is still the same. It's very artistic-y. Like, it's very, like, certain colors are used all the time.
Yeah.
The face still can't draw women. But
yeah, each scene, like, battle vignette has its own color palette. It's done in watercolors. It's done in a very unique style, in my opinion, that I like.
It's good art. It's better art in this one than it was in the first one, even though I know it's the same artist, same style.
Yeah.
I felt that it was better. Maybe because more people are wearing masks.
That could be, yeah.
And there's less women. Like, Leia's in this, but Leia's always off away, so she was drawn better.
Yeah, maybe somebody else, criticized what you criticized last episode, like the drawing of Leia.
I know, I criticize that a lot.
So, yeah. Yeah.
So the book gets introduced. You're on a Star Destroyer, and you get introduced to a few different. I think are they called Dark Jedi? Is that what they call them?
Yeah, they're Dark Jedi. They're Dark Side adepts, but for our purposes, we can call them Dark Jedi.
Okay, so these were Jedi that then joined Palpatine back at the end of Revenge of the Sith, I assume.
I think some of them were. I think some of them were also just like people who use the dark side and just somehow came into being. They don't really explain it in the book. They just kind of. The only line they use to kind of say it is, the evil ruler initiated an elite corps of 7 warriors whom he empowered with the dark side of the Force. These Dark Jedi were authorized to put in action his master plan to retake the galaxy. And that's it. That's all you get For this book, you get that he had warriors. I don't think they were old guard. I think they were kind of just people he had trained to help him out in the dark side. But there's no more explanation given, really. But they are kind of like the main henchmen throughout the book. The main villain being Executor Cedrus.
For a bit,
for like the first half of the book. And,
because at this point Palpatine is dead, and you have him kind of in charge of the Empire, and it starts off with some planet that made weapons for the Empire, but decided that they didn't want to make weapons anymore.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I like this. Yeah,
it's a good kind of dynamic where you kind of see how this is a neutral planet, and the Empire wants it for their weapons, but they want to be independent. So there's like a big battle that starts off the book, or it starts off this comic, and it's kind of it keeps one up against itself page after page, and I think it's a really great start to it.
Are these supposed to be Dark Troopers?
They do mention that.
I saw that word in here.
They are in the book, and I don't know if they're quite the Dark Forces Dark Troopers, but they do mention that term. So it could just be they were using the term, or it could be that this is their adaptation of that. But the first few battles, there are a lot of robot on robot fighting. There are people who look like stormtroopers with droid armor fighting. These other weapons that this neutral planet has armed itself with.
And this neutral planet kicks ass.
Yeah. It keeps one upping. Like they have the 10 models. Like the Empire is fighting with S9 models, but the planet has S10 models. And then, Executor Cedrus is like, well, we have to bring in the shadow droids.
I like the shadow droids, which are like stealth little ships that are all controlled by computers.
Yeah, they're like automated, robots infused with the dark side, and they look like black and sleek, whatever that means.
How do you infuse a robot with the dark side?
It's like, a pumpkin spice infusion, it just mix a little bit in there and the droid brain and you'll be set.
I mean, Jedi is a religion. Sith is a religion when it comes down to it.
Yeah, they don't. I guess they're imbued with the bad side of the Force. They don't explain it. They just you're just supposed to accept it happens.
This is when you see the weird, and this is also the same planet that built the World Devastators from the first Dark Empire.
Yeah, so they're like big in the Empire, but the Emperor's dead. They say so. Why should we contract to you anymore?
I like that though. I like seeing the remnants of the Empire kind of falling apart, because it's like he's been dead at this point for 6 years and he died again, and I'm assuming most people wouldn't even know he was around at that time. So I like that dynamic, because you would have planets starting to rebel against an empire, because the Empire was all based on one person, and it didn't even last that long. It was only really around for 20 years or so, I think. Palpatine in power, not long.
It's not really long when you think about it.
No, there's more Star Trek seasons than he was in charge. Become all Star Trek.
Yeah, that's for sure.
So what you're saying is Star Trek was more part of our heritage than the Empire was part of the Star Wars heritage. Yeah.
Well, how many things have been around for 20 years? I mean, the Empire was only around as long as, I don't know, as long as we've had, God, I can't even think, American Idol, I guess,
Cell phones? No, we had cell phones longer. Smartphones,
almost.
Like early 2000s?
Mid 2000s, I think. So the Empire was around only as long as, when the iPod, that's what it was. The Empire was only as old as the iPod, and then they weren't around anymore.
It's just funny thinking about that. Like he had this whole grand scheme, and he didn't last that long.
No, it should have been 100 years.
Yeah, that's what he planned for, and that's also in this book. Like when they bring the stealth droids, you see these weird tank things that look like they have tentacles, mouths, or something.
Yeah.
I like them. I mean, they're like the new, more powerful walkers that are protected against. They're protected against like shots. Like they can take the energy beams and they reflect it and stuff.
Yeah, they have molecular shielding, which absorbs the beams and fires them back.
Isn't that in Star Wars? I mean, Star Trek?
I think they did something like that in maybe the Borg had that, if I remember, or they did something like that on Voyager. I can't remember exactly, but
because as a guy who's been watching Enterprise nonstop, I can tell you the Borg do have the shields that change with the frequency of your phasers.
Yeah,
I can tell you that.
Well, I mean there's probably something like that in there. I mean, Enterprise had a whole lot of different things that we could devote a whole season of episodes to Enterprise.
Might have at some point more.
Been a long road. Okay.
I love that show, but we'll get there in a minute.
So the new tentacle droids, the new kind of like bug-shaped droids, defeat the shadow droids by pulling them out of the sky. And, Executor Cedrus and the rest of the dark side is very upset by this. So they negotiate a deal to be like, all right, we'll buy these droids from you and we won't obliterate your planet. And everybody's fine with that. So Executor Cedrus says, I don't have to waste my time with these people. I got a new enemy to worry about. And then it cuts to Luke Skywalker.
I mean, that wouldn't really be a new enemy to worry about, but what?
He's got a more important adversary, I should say. Everybody's against Luke in these comics.
Yeah, and this is... I like seeing the Rebel fleet, and you see the fact that they have one of the Devastators from the first series. I like that.
Now they don't... One thing they don't do in these books is kind of mention the Republic, and what I read was because this it's all the Rebel Alliance, and it's not really a sense that it's like a government. Which in the old canon, at this point, it was like a New Republic. It was the government, and they had a seat of armor. So they don't really explain why that's different. The real reason is that these comics were kind of designed right before the Timothy Zahn novels, so they don't exactly have the same continuity.
Okay, these came out before Heir of the Empire, then, or
they came out the same year, I think, 91 or 92. But they were designed beforehand, and they only very loosely follow that plot line, only follow that continuity. So there's some elements of it in there, but it was all developed before that was on track. So there's some discrepancy there. So the Rebels are kind of moving from base to base, whereas in the books and other things, they were established as on Coruscant and other planets at this time. So it's a kind of a minor difference, but
okay. Because I was reading or watching a bunch of stuff that was talking about what was going on in first canon versus what is legend now, and they did talk about how at this point they had already set up a whole government.
Right. Yeah, and I think you can just assume that maybe there was some trouble. There was some trouble and they had to abandon Coruscant briefly. And I think that happens kind of in the first book. But again, it was designed around the Timothy Zahn novels, not after it. So it has some errors in it, some discontinuity. But nonetheless, there is a Rebel base. Luke appears here at the Pinnacle base, which is the Rebel hideout. And he has a Jedi in tow named Cam Soluzar, who was a Jedi Knight that he found.
Wasn't he a Darksider? And then he
was a Darksider. He was one of Palpatine's warriors, but Luke turned him to the light side. And they don't really go much into how it happened.
I guess it's in the audio
right.
book of this, but it's not in the comic book.
Yeah. And I do remember listening to the audiobook many, many years ago. And they do have a lightsaber fight. And there's some game that Luke plays to get Cam Soluzar to come to the light side. But it's all hazy now. I'll have to listen to it again someday. But yes, he has a new Jedi Knight. They call him a Jedi Knight. He turned from the dark side. And Cam is kind of like a Han Solo of Jedi Knights. He's kind of wisecracky and gruff.
I like him.
Yeah, he's cool.
This is like the beginning. I want to say this is the beginning of Luke trying to build up the Jedi Temple.
Yes.
Which I know in the later book, he's a bunch of Jedi he's been training, like what we saw a little bit in The Last Jedi in the flashbacks.
Yeah, he is part of it. Cam is in some of the books. I forget which one, but there's a Jedi Academy trilogy that Cam is in.
And there's games that follow Jedi Academy too. There's 2 of them at least.
Yeah. So he's a character that they put into he's a character that they kept going into other works as well. Yeah.
And this is when you see that Rebel base from the first book, Pinnacle base on that moon. You see Leia and she's pregnant. I think, 8, 9 months? Like she's very close to having the kid.
Yeah, very close. Yeah.
And this is when they also find out that Beltane, the planet that was fighting the Empire earlier in the book, is now working with the Rebels. And because they don't trust the Empire, because the Empire even said, as soon as we get the weapons, we'll kill them all.
Yeah.
So they're working with the Rebels, and they hey, we're shipping these for the Empire, but if you want to sneak on in, go ahead.
Yeah. And this is I like how it starts off with this assignment. It's kind of like Return of the Jedi, where Luke wants to, take Biss, the Imperial capital, or Luke wants to liberate other worlds, but the Rebel Alliance, leadership wants to use these droids that they're getting to sneak into the Imperial capital and defeat the Emperor once and for all. And so there's kind of a difference between what Luke thinks and, Mon Mothma and the rest of them think.
Which makes sense.
Yeah.
I mean, Luke is not thinking as a government. He's thinking more as of a religion in a way. Like his whole concern is, I need to resurrect the Jedi. I need to bring them back. I need to squash the Empire. I'm not concerned about you fighting a bunch of warlords.
Right, exactly.
Which fits, I feel like fits Luke well. It fits the character that they were building throughout the series.
Yeah. It puts him at odds with the rest of the leadership, which makes him, more dramatic and makes him much more of a loner, which I think is more in keeping with his character.
Yeah, and after Dark Empire, where he pretty much almost joined Palpatine just to trick him, I mean, it makes sense that they're like, he's more of a loner too.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And this is also when the Jedi Cam he brought with him, he shows him that cube from the first Dark Empire, which apparently these cubes are rare because the Clone Wars movie didn't happen yet. And you see the Jedi that then sends him to a planet, I think, that tells him that if you go to this planet, this is where we'll be or something.
Yeah, the holocron tells him about the planet called Ossus, which is, from what I gather, it's like one of the last remnants of the Force. Like, it's a planet that's very imbued with the Force, and he's like, you should go there, and maybe you'll find, or the image of the old prophet says, go there, and you'll find some Jedi there. So that's what Luke and Cam decide, well, we got to go there then. And it's very vague. It's very vague set of directions, but they decide to go there anyway.
Which makes sense. I mean, you're chasing down leads in this case. Like, the Jedi are few and far between at this point.
Yeah,
there's a lot of Jedi in this book.
One thing I do like, it does set up there is a number of clues about what happened to the Jedi. Obviously, this was written before the Clone Wars and all that stuff. But, there's a nice bit of color. And before all the stuff about the Clone Wars came out, this is like the only real bits of hints you had about what happened. So it's interesting to see it there. And you can get a sense of where, in the 90s, where Star Wars was in terms of talking about that stuff. But there's more about that later. We'll get to that later, too.
And then it takes you to BIS, which is the big, like, Citadel space station from the first Dark Empire. And it shows where Palpatine was, and it shows the guards, and it shows all the Darksiders. Yeah. There's a bunch of them together. And I love the scene that you see them destroying the clones. Like, you have one line like, "Oh, I'm glad that Luke did most of our job. He didn't finish it." They're just killing the rest of Palpatine's clones.
Yeah, it's great. It's like you always love to see the bad guys fighting against each other because that's what bad guys do, and it's just like them slicing through these clones. That's a great image. That when I saw The Rise of Skywalker, I hope they'd use that. I hope you get to see other clones and you just see them slicing them open. But alas, they didn't go that route. No. But here, at least, you get to see that.
And you already have Seedris, who kills, I think, 2 of his people. 2 of the Darksiders.
Because he's like, he comes in and he says, "What do you do? You're killing the Emperor's clones." And he's like, "Well, it's time for you to die." He just slices them up, cleaves one of them in half. And we see that, it's pretty grisly. This is some grisly executions in here.
And this is when Palpatine shows that he's been reborn one more, but he's with a faulty clone, you find out.
Right, yeah. Like, he looks really young and youthful in the first few panels, but it's going to change later on.
It doesn't take long. It really shows him by the end of this little series just aging so fast.
Yeah.
And it's the only clone left to him, and it's an inferior clone.
Yeah. Sucks to be you, I guess.
That brings us to the second issue, and I got to talk about this cover, because as I've said on the show before, and you well know, I'm a huge fan of Boba Fett.
Right.
And the second cover is Boba Fett in the cover shooting, and Chewbacca jumping at him in the background. I'm just like, man, that's a cool cover.
You gonna get a print of that someday?
I'm gonna collect. I've been meaning. Once I start going to conventions again, I'm going to hunt down these books.
They're not easy to come by.
They're not.
I'll tell you that. I working at a comics/bookstore. I don't see them. I don't think I've seen them once in 10 years, maybe.
Yeah, they're gonna be but I really want to start finding them now.
You got to find them. I agree with you. They're great. It's a great cover, and it's like, what's going on here? And that's why you got to read the comic to find out.
I love the fact that they bring back, Boba Fett in these books. To me, that's one thing that's really cool. Because as anyone knows, I'm a huge freaking fan of Boba Fett. And I love seeing Boba Fett back in this. And like this book opens up where Han and Leia went to Nar Shaddaa again, which is the planet in the first book, right?
Yeah, it's the moon of the Hutt, Nal Hutta. So it's the smuggler's moon of the Hutt homeworld. And it's it's basically one big cantina, or one big slum, I guess. So.
And why are they doing this again? I forgot what they're looking for.
They need to find the old Jedi woman, Bima Dabota.
Okay.
Who Leia believed had force power, so they want to go back to find her.
Okay.
That's going to help. She's going to help them out. So that's why
they team up with some of the smugglers from the first book.
Yeah. So they're like Han's old friends are there to help him out. And you get to see a bit of his. It's always good to see Han's backstory a little bit, and they don't spell anything out. They just go, these are his old friends.
I thought he grew up on a different planet that he ran away with when he was like 16, 17, right? And then a guard gave him the name Solo. I thought that's what happened.
Yeah, they don't talk about that for some reason in this. They don't mention that.
And then you have the best scene in the entire little series. Boba Fett is talking to the Darksiders. And the Darksiders are trying to hire him to go get... I think they're trying to go get Anakin Skywalker, the newborn baby that's coming.
Yeah. They want to know... well, part of the thing is they want to get to the rebels, but they want to use Boba Fett to find, the new Jedi child, I believe, Anakin Solo, I believe is the name.
Yeah.
And so they're interrogating Boba Fett, and they say interesting things like, we know you're a stormtrooper. We know you murdered your superior officer. Which is like, could it be true or could it be not true? Who knows?
Oh, I thought he was a clone, a child of a clone.
You're they don't say, oh yeah, you're a clone that's out with a New Zealand accent, that your father was Jango Fett, and they don't talk about that. Yeah.
I love how when they were doing this and George was like, yeah, who cares? I'm writing my own fiction. He's
right, yeah.
Clone.
But you kind of get the sense that even in this time, no one, like, he was not going to talk about his past. If you knew who Boba Fett was, like, you didn't know anything about his backstory. You certainly didn't know what he looked like or anything. So
because he wasn't really much of a character. He's in one scene of Empire Strikes Back. He's in a cartoon that he rides a dog or a big animal.
Right.
Looks like an idiot. And he has a third eye on his helmet. And then he's in Return of the Jedi where he just gets smacked around and tossed into a Sarlacc pit. Like, he wasn't... Yeah. I mean, there might have been were there other books this time he would have been in, or comics? Or this is really, like, the beginning of the Renaissance?
This was the beginning of the Renaissance. He was in... I know they did a book called series that was quite popular called Tales from the Bounty Hunter. I think it was around this time. That did go into his backstory. But again, it was they framed it in such a way where it's like, oh, this is what people say about Boba Fett. It wasn't like presented as this is the truth about Boba Fett. It was presented this is one story about him. So they were kind of building up as a character that you didn't really know about, enigmatic. Like, there was nothing definitive, only rumor about him.
Okay.
And I think that's what this could be. Like, they want to, like, the one the Darksider person says, I want to take off his helmet. I want to see his face. So you get the sense that they don't even know what's under there. Like, their records are spotty too about him.
Okay. Plus, Dark Empire is all way before we get Shadows of the Empire, which also has Fett.
Yeah. That's also true. That's probably part of the Renaissance as well.
Okay. It's a year later after this book. But
yeah.
I love how the Darksiders try to kill him, and he just blows up some stormtroopers and just and they just leave him. They have to escape. I love that. Because
these people are idiots to him, and he's like, he can so get out of their hair.
But I think there's a line here where there's a misprint, because he says realizing the negotiations are over, Boba Fett dashes for his newly repaired Slave One. I thought it was just called Boba Fett's ship, not Slave One.
Well, you see, in the 90s, Michael, we didn't have a problem with slavery, but now we have a problem with slavery. So.
But for those that don't know, the joke is when Lego made the ship, they called it Boba Fett's ship because they didn't want to put slave in it, which makes sense. It's just, I know why it's called Slave One, because of the Bounty Hunter game explains why the ship is called Slave One, because Jango Fett stole it from a penal colony. Yeah,
that's true. There'll still be slavery in the Star Wars universe. As Qui-Gon said, he can't free all the slaves.
It just amuses me, little things like that have changed, like making my little jokes. That's what I'm doing apparently tonight.
Yeah, it's all part of the Disney world now.
Mm-hmm. And you do get a lot of good action scenes. Like, you have Solo just blowing up a bunch of ships and taking out stormtroopers, and you get a lot of good action of them doing whatever they're doing on this planet, trying to find this Jedi.
Yeah, this is an action packed. I think this might have been my favorite part of when I was younger. I really liked the Nar Shaddaa stuff, where Boba Fett's after them, and it's like the dark side people are going through the alleyways of this planet, just mowing down people, being like, just kill everybody. I want to kill the Jedi. And kind of the great scene, there's one where the dark side, the stormtroopers shooting into the crowd, and the dark Jedi are like, Cedric already knows about her. He wants her dead. And it's like, that's just a great villainous moment.
And I do like there's a scene where they go in some bar and you see like a part of a pie that's being fed to some Wookiees with eyeballs and like
Diagnogo pie. And there's another Wookiee there. Yeah, it's like a great cantina scene.
There's a lot of cool stuff in this, and this is when Han Solo ends up he runs into Boba Fett around this point. I want to say.
So they meet some bounty hunters. So Leia, Chewie, and Han are met by bounty hunters who all want to get them for killing Jabba, but they escape. Of course, the bounty hunters fight amongst themselves, and they're like, "Oh no, we gotta get out of here. We're like unwelcome." So.
And this is when Boba Fett then chases after them while they're driving to like alleyways and stuff.
Yeah, so the Millennium Falcon and Slave One meet up in this giant tunnel that is hidden behind like advertising holo screen. It calls it.
I like that. It reminds me of Blade Runner.
Yeah, it is very Blade Runner-esque. Like you can, it's like you could see like a giant woman advertising, Coca-Cola or something in here somewhere. And yeah, they're flying through the shaft. They're playing chicken basically. And in this great scene, the Millennium Falcon rams Slave One and knocks off its stabilizer. And it's like, Boba Fett barely survives, but then the Millennium Falcon punches out of this billboard in a huge explosion. It's like, wow, that's a great scene. Just like very well illustrated.
And this is when you have them, as they fly off, they end up finding the Jedi they've been looking for, who's an old lady just hiding and screaming.
Yeah. And so it says here she's descended from Nomi's Sunrider, and I looked at Nomi's Sunrider was from a Marvel comic. I think Tales of the Jedi was a comic. I think it was Marvel, maybe it was Dark Horse. Anyway, it was some Star Wars comic a few years before this that they introduced this Jedi from the Old Republic. And so she was supposed to be the great-granddaughter of this old Jedi.
Okay.
I don't know much about that era, but all I know is that she's related to that comic series.
And this is when Boba Fett shows up, and I think, doesn't he...
Yeah.
Okay, and the Wookiee stayed behind, because Chewbacca stayed behind at the ship to clean off the ship, and then Boba Fett approaches them, and then this is when Chewbacca, jumps on him and then gets shot.
Boba Fett shoots him point blank, and Chewie goes down. He's like, the Wookiee's dead, Solo. Give yourself up, or the same goes for you, but Chewie's not dead. Chewie sneaks up behind him, tears off his helmet, and then hits his jetpack, and his jetpack flies into the ceiling. You're like, oh, damn. Best to buy his jetpack again.
Wouldn't he be pretty, I feel like you'd be dead if you just went head first into the ceiling with no helmet.
Unless you're Boba Fett, yes.
Yeah, he doesn't die.
If your skull would be crushed, a real person's skull would be crushed. But alas, this is not a real... This is Star Wars, so the villain can't die that way. It has to be another way.
You have to go in a Sarlacc pit and then not come back till 30 years later when you found in the desert wandering around. The second season.
Who knows what's going on there? Yeah. I'll have to find out in this December. Disney Plus.
And I like how you have Chewbacca holding the helmet in one panel. He just took the helmet and they took it with them.
That'd be a great trophy, don't you think?
Yeah, I mean, and then you see the Darksiders again, the few of them, and they're piloting some ship and they're trying to take out Solo. And I think one of Solo's friends turns on him, right? That's what this is.
Yeah. So the Darksiders are a new Star Destroyer, but this friend of his is in a control tower and is like, I've given you up, Solo. The money's too good. And the Star Destroyer launches a tractor beam on the Millennium Falcon, but Han Solo is one step ahead, so he flies underneath the control tower. The tractor beam hits the control tower. And it's like a giant spike thrust up into the Star Destroyer and basically knocks it out. It's like it hit the right one spot that would destroy the machine, and it collapses into the planet, possibly killing thousands of people in process. Process. If you think about it.
It also destroys the Star Destroyer, too, because you just got hit with a freaking building that went through it.
Yeah. I mean, in real life, that'd be very catastrophic if your spaceship was hit by a gigantic building.
And then your spaceship would hit the planet, or hit whatever the hell it hits, and that would kill more people. So, yeah, a lot of people died just now.
But it's a great one-page, image.
And the art is good in this. And, again, there's less people up close or less women, so art's great.
Yeah, I think the ship stuff is great. All that stuff is excellent.
This guy, Cam Kennedy is a very good artist. It's just, I don't like the way he draws women's faces.
Yeah.
But I think that's a me thing partly.
And I think you're probably right. His art was criticized. I was looking online at reviews and, just going through, say, Goodreads and stuff. And people do not like this comic, like even more than I did like the first one. And part of it's the art, and I just don't understand it.
It's very styled.
It's very styled, and I'm happy for once in a while if they do something different with comics. And a lot of the Star Wars art in comics is very similar. Like it looks more realistic, and this is like very styled and colorful. And I think it's fine that they did something different. I'm a big defender of the art here. So
I like it for the most part in this book.
yeah,
And I want to talk about the third issue cover, which I find amusing. So the third issue cover, you have a tree, you have Luke and Cam, and you have a girl like tied up to the tree by the tree roots.
It's kind of S&M. Think about it.
Yeah, it amused me. I'm like, okay. I'm like, where's this issue gonna go?
Or like, yeah, it's like, or like heavy metal or something. It's like, wow, this is what's going on here.
Oh, there's a few covers that are kind of like hentai related. That's what that reminds me of. There's a Marvel cover that's kind of like that I own. That has tentacles on the cover that got had issues with it.
This staggers the line. This cover does,
but it looks cool. And again, I want to talk about how much I love Luke's design in this era where he's wearing the all black costume. He has the robotic arm that Palpatine did to him. Like adjusted it in the first Dark Empire series, and it's just like he looks very much like Vader, but with a green lightsaber.
Yeah,
and I love that about him.
Yeah, it's a really good outfit for him.
And this book starts off showing the ship that Sala is on, their friend Han Solo's friend, trying to escape the Empire. I want to say.
They're trying to infiltrate the Empire. They've got the droids. Yeah.
Okay, is it like the Empire's like the Citadel that they're trying to infiltrate?
Yeah, they're trying to get to Biss, which is the Citadel world. So it's the capital. They're infiltrating it, and they've got the rebels in their cargo hold, droids and stuff. So they're trying to infiltrate it. Yeah.
And this is when they drive by the Death Star. No, I mean not the Death Star. The Star Killer. No, not Star Killer. The what's it called? This one? This third time?
The Galaxy Gun.
Oh, okay, thank you. Which is the Death Star or the Star Killer.
Yeah, it's basically a combination of both of them together.
It's a giant gun that's in space that shoots a bullet that goes into hyperspace that has shield and then blows up.
Yeah, so basically it's like a one big smart bomb launcher.
Yes.
Now, if it's in space, do you need like a giant barrel like it has? I don't think you do, because basically just launch a projectile.
But it looks cooler that way. You have a giant barrel.
It does look more like a gun, but there's no need for it to be because it's in space. But who am I to argue with the design?
And then this is when you see Cedrus and Palpatine, I think, arguing, or he's telling him what his next mission. Well, he's telling him his next mission all about crushing the rebel armies, and he wants to kill Luke and all that other stuff.
The Emperor doesn't want to kill Luke; he wants the Jedi alive.
Oh, never mind.
But Cedrus says, "All right, let's kill Luke. Let's get it over with." But he's like, "No."
That's what I want.
He wants Cedrus to follow. They have a probe droid following them, and then he wants them to. If that doesn't get him, he wants Cedrus to go after them himself. Like he wants Cedrus to go and bring him Luke. So we see the planet Ossus, which is the lost Jedi world that Cam and Luke have arrived at, and it's kind of like a derelict world. It's like a ruined world, and it reminds me a little bit of Alien. Like there's all these like old objects and stuff there that nobody knows about. There's old frescoes and things.
It does have a very alien vibe, and you have giant like old ruins of cities and stuff. Yeah, I can definitely see that. This is when you see the two people that are tied up to a tree. Which, did they ever explain why they're tied up to that tree?
I don't think so. I think it could have been part of like a initiation ritual or something. Maybe that's what my guess is, but I forget if they explain it.
And this is when they can't understand what they're saying either at first because their language is different.
Yeah, the inhabitants are speaking the local language, and it doesn't render in what they call basic or English for us.
It wasn't Darmok and Jalad and Tanangra.
That's Star Trek. That's a whole nother. Although we do get into some Star Trek-y things later, but we'll get there.
That's all I think whenever I see stuff where you can't, like, where the people can't read it, and I just think of that episode of Star Trek Next Generation.
Yeah, that's one of the classic ones.
Something when the walls fell, like when he talks in metaphors.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And then when they escape, again, it has more of the alien vibe because he cuts free the two people and they run off from the tree, and you have a bunch of these soldiers come, and just the way they look in one of these panels just remind me of Aliens with the helmets and the guns, and they're shooting. I got that vibe.
Yeah, that definitely is part of it. They do look like kind of like the Marines from Aliens.
Mm-hmm. And this is when you find out they're all Jedi. They all have Jedi energy or the Force in them.
Yeah, they try to use like Force sorcery on them, but they're so unskilled that Luke and Cam are not affected by it. So they're just like, these people are very easy to block. They need some more training, and they do well. And then so like the shaman of these people like realizes that they're Jedi, and like they start saying, "Oh, you're Jedi, you're Jedi." He hugs them and he like kind of welcomes them in, and he accepts them finally instead of attacking them. But that's when the Imperials arrive.
This is a good scene of like the Cedrus and the other one of the other Darksiders. It doesn't matter because he's dead soon. They show up, and you have these people on the planet fighting the stormtroopers, and Cam and Luke just wiping out stormtroopers, and it's just
right.
You only get one panel of them fighting, but still, I love when Luke's being a badass at this. I love this Luke, this time frame of Luke.
Yeah, it's like red and black, and you just see like a silhouette, but Luke is like just slicing through people.
Yeah, because he's so damn powerful at this point, and that's what upsets me somewhat. Last Jedi is I wanted a powerful Luke, not a pacifist Luke. But that's me.
That's what you got the Mandalorian for.
Yes, that's why. There's an episode about that. Go check that out. And this is when you see Cedrus and Solzar come rushing at Luke and Cam, and they both fight each other. And I like how he pretty much beat. I mean, Cam kills the other guy. Solzar again. All these Darksiders really suck. Like they all go down so quickly.
Right. Yeah. They got the remedial training, I guess.
He was too busy infusing them with the dark side to teach them how to fight.
And part of that, I'm sure, is like you have to give them villains to kill, but it's like maybe they could put up a bit more of a fight.
More than one panel?
Right. I was going to say, Cedrus goes down, and he's by the big tree that the kids were tied up by to earlier. And so he's like, you can never defeat the Emperor. You know, you should join the Emperor like me if you're smart. Otherwise, he's going to destroy you. And then he takes the girl hostage, and, you know, he's prepared to say, you let me go, or let me go to my ship, or else, you know, this girl dies or whatever. And then all of a sudden the tree starts talking.
This threw me for a loop.
Yeah, it's like, what's going on? The tree is a living ancient being. It's like a big Deku shrub, or, you know, or an Ent. It's an Ent Deku shrub. And he's a Jedi, and he's like, he wraps his tentacles around Cedrus, and he's like, I am an ancient Jedi, and get back, Skywalker. The evil one is trying to kill me, but I'm a greater master of the Force than he. And so Luke grabs the girl away, and the tree kind of like starts sizzling with electricity, and then a big explosion. It destroys itself and Cedrus. And
it is cool. And this is also the tree was the one that made the holocron that Palpatine had.
Right.
The Dark Empire one. And then when the tree dies, there's an uncomfortable scene where the girl, who they say earlier is only 16 years old, which we're going to get to shortly, falls on Luke, and there's a little scene where they're looking at each other, and they say that he's her teacher. And then where the tree died, they found a whole cache of lightsabers down below.
Yeah.
And now there's 4 Jedi, except I wouldn't really consider these Jedi to be younglings, but hey, sure, we'll go with
They're
that.
younglings in the old term, yeah. But yeah, it's a great scene. It's not really explained away, just because it's supposed to take it as fact. And, you know, part of me is like, I want to know what's going on. Part of me is also like, I don't really care. It's like, it's still a mystery. Like, I'm fine with it being a mystery about what this big tree is doing.
Dying, apparently, because the tree lasted like 4 pages.
But 1,000 years, he was 1,000 years old.
Yes, until he got into a fight with one Dark Jedi, one Sith, and it's over.
That's what happens.
A lightsaber.
We got to move on to these comics. They got to keep moving. They don't have time to talk about Tree Jedi.
And then the 4th issue has another cover that I'm just like, where it's Han Solo on one side, Boba Fett on the other, and Slave One in the middle, and I'm just like, more Boba Fett.
It's everything you want in a Boba Fett comic.
I love Boba Fett, and I think that's another thing that was so interesting about this book for me was there is a lot of Boba Fett. I mean, the book this issue doesn't open Boba Fett. It opens up with Lando and all the rebels are hidden inside the mechs that we saw earlier that are on these rebel cruisers being taken past the Galaxy Gun to, God, what the hell is it? Biss, right? Is that the Sanctuary?
The Citadel, yeah. Biss is the Citadel world, yeah.
This is when Palpatine is talking about how his clone is dying and that the people that are working for him are idiots and stuff.
Yeah, he's supervising the Galaxy Gun's construction.
Oh, it's not finished yet, is it?
Yeah, it's not finished. One of his weapons is not finished. They built all these other things, but they didn't build this one yet. And he doesn't know about the infiltration. He's just like, he's like kind of promoting his Dark Jedi because all the other ones have died. He's like, you guys will be my second in command. And They look very serious, and there's a big burst of energy a great disturbance in the Force that's felt throughout the galaxy because he releases such a big burst, and Luke and Cam feel that on the planet of Ossus.
And in the planet, they're taken to some old Jedi temple and shown a bunch of artifacts. And then this is when he tells the Elder he's taking these. I think the one guy's like the girl's 16. I think the guy's like 12 or something or 14. They say their ages at one point in this book.
Yeah, somewhere in there.
He's young.
They're young, yeah.
And then it kind of cuts back and forth. You have Han Solo where he's being attacked by Boba Fett, and then he flies into a gas cloud to escape Boba Fett.
Yeah, and the Millennium Falcon is hit bad.
This is a weird turn where they go through this gas cloud that nobody's been through ever before.
Yeah.
Uncharted space where no Falcon has gone before. And they end up finding like a steampunk version of space where the guy's in a giant spaceship controlled by steam.
Yeah, I think this is a very Star Trekian thing where it's like a hidden race of people who are cut off from the galaxy with no technology. And it's kind of like Jules Verne. I think it's a little bit like 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea, where you have that kind of insane captain who's living against the world, living the uncharted part of the world. So that's part of what inspired it, I'm sure. But yes, it's not very. It's like the least Star Wars part of this series is going here. Yeah, and
I think they were originally going to kill them, weren't they? Like the people that they take them prisoner, they didn't plan to let them leave.
They didn't want to kill them until their king learns that they're Jedi there.
Okay, this is a weird. So their king is a guy in a metal suit with no legs, no arms, just a face with a nose, and who was a Jedi. You find out.
Yeah, you found out not only was a Jedi, he was a Jedi that was attacked by Vader. He was tried to be wiped out by Vader, but he survived by having his suit encased in this pressure suit. And and so he is so out of touch that he doesn't know anything about the galaxy. He's like, Vader must be a great lore ruler by now. He must rule many systems. And Han's like, you have been out of touch, haven't you?
And his name is
Brand. I don't know his first name. Who can pronounce that? King Brand.
Okay. I was like, I'm toast. I'm like, I can't say that.
And Pajojas.
And then he joins them.
Right.
And it also cuts back to the rebels who are now unloading all their mechs on Abyss. Mm-hmm. And then they finally burst through and just start taking out everybody. They just start taking out all the stormtroopers, all the armors. Everything's getting massacred by these mechs.
That's a great scene. It's great.
Really
it's like you got lots of battles. They're firing at everything at these mechs, but nothing's working because they've got all this advanced armor. And the Imperials are talking to the Emperor, and the Emperor's like, I'm not going down there. You deal with this. It's like, this is the last thing I need. Yeah. He's like, this is the last thing I need. I have lots of things going on. You handle this stuff.
I need to go abduct a baby, damn it. I got time for this.
So they're like, okay, well, we'll think of something else to do. And they have a surprise coming, but the rebels are getting closer and closer. And there's a great scene where they're over this moat, and like you see the rebels, like they're looking at these bug-like mechs, and they're approaching the capital. And you see the walkers there, and it's a great panel. It's a great action panel, I think.
It's a good issue.
Yeah. And they get close to close. Things are falling to the moat. They're going over this big bridge, and Emperor's like, release the chrysalids as they ordered. They're dark side creatures, and they're like, all right, sir. And you like, what are the chrysalids? But you'll find out because they come up from these tubes from the moat, and they're like giant dark side rancors. I guess you could describe them as monsters bred for war.
They're weird to me. Like they're on the cover of the 5th issue.
Yeah,
where you see Lando and C-3PO and R2-D2 because they're also in the mechs, and you see a giant Rancor. I don't understand what's special about these other than they're infused with the dark side. Right.
A lot of things in this series are infused with the dark side. Which that's all they sell you about them.
Like, and these things just mess up these mechs because the thing about these mechs is they're able to deflect the blast. And the same thing like the Borg. When you shoot the Borg with a regular gun, they can't handle the projectiles. Same thing as these mechs can't handle the Rancors ripping their arms off and eating them.
Exactly.
And then it's Sala, Han Solo's friend, who then teams up with a bunch of like riffraff in a cantina, and they go take some ships and drive off, and they're the ones that save Lando and what's left of the rebels.
Yeah, these Rancors are not impervious to laser blasts, so they just start shooting at them and they start blowing away. there's a great scene where one kind of hangs on to the side of the ship after they rescued everyone that's lifting them off. And R2 just comes up and 3PO's like, oh no, he'll be killed for certain. But R2 just stabs him with his little needle, and the Rancor falls into a turbo laser and destroyed.
And this is when they flee.
Yeah.
They flee back to the Rebel base, and you have Han Solo, who's in the Millennium Falcon's getting enhanced with new old technology at this gas cloud town. And this is when they then leave with the floating cyborg guy, Brandt. So now I have another Jedi has joined them.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And when they leave the gas cloud, this is when Boba Fett attacks them, but they shoot Boba Fett with a new weapon, and that's the end of Boba Fett in this comic.
Yeah, he kind of spirals off, and they're like, will we ever see him again? I guess I'm going to miss him, but you never know with Boba Fett. He could be dead, he could be not dead. I'm
sure there's other comics or books where he comes back after this.
Yeah, that's not the end of him, but for this series,
he's out of this series. And then this is when Han Solo is then heading to New Alderaan to go see the twins, the two kids they have, which are hidden on this planet. They only see them once a year or something, they say? Yeah,
because there's a planet that no one knows about. It's not on any maps. It's where they've hidden the Jedi children from the Empire.
And were the kids born during the Heir of the Empire trilogy?
Yeah.
Okay.
That's when they come from. I think Jason and Jaina, I think their names are.
Yeah.
They're from those books, yeah.
Okay, I've listened to the first book of the audiobook at one point. I remember nothing, but I know I listened to it.
Yeah. These kids they're the kids from there, and I think they were really young then, and they're really young here, so.
Yeah, and then it jumps back to the ship, and Luke's trying to train the new Jedi, and he uses that little cube, that little circuit sphere thing that he used in the first movie, and he's getting too close. Okay, this is the scene he's a little too close to one of these girls, the 16-year-old girl.
Yeah, it's sometimes love is strengthened by a sensitivity to the energy, blah blah blah. That's what the text says.
The text should say, "You're 16. No, thank you."
Luke is 35. Too much.
I was like, no, I don't like this. You're taking one of my favorite characters. No.
Yeah, it's a little bit awkward.
Also, where the fuck is Mara Jade? Where's his wife?
She had not been invented at this time.
She's an Heir of the Empire, right? And
I forget when she first appears. She might be in that series.
I'm pretty sure she's in that series, which again didn't happen yet, but it happened, time-wise.
Yeah, I guess I forget if they were, she was in them, but I forget if were they at Iden then. I think they were still enemies, I think, at that point. But I could be hazy. I'm sure their real fans are screaming at the podcast right now, telling us.
Apparently they realized in 19 ABY, but I forgot what ABY stands for.
After Battle of Yavin.
So, okay, this would have been 9 years after where we're at right now, because it's 10 years after the Battle of Yavin.
Sure, yeah.
Okay, all right, I'm a little better now. Still not okay what he's doing, but I'll take it. And again, when I saw him kissing her, I mean, maybe only hugging her, but still getting a little too close to her, I'm like, yeah, she's dead. They're gonna kill her off.
Yeah, I mean, you're supposed to think there's some romantic stuff going on, so I couldn't know she's dead.
When it said if it wouldn't have said her age, I would have been okay. When they were just like, she's younger. Okay, she could be 20. She's 19. Okay, no problem.
Right.
I'll accept it. When you tell me she's 16 and you have him kissing her, I'm just like, nope. And then you see Han Solo and Leia with the kids, and they're holding the kids, and Luke is done being a pedophile, and he's flying with Cam. And I really didn't like this. And this is when they're heading back to the moon, the Rebel base, and they see the shell fly by them. They're like, what is that? And then it hits the moon and blows up the moon, and they think the rebels are all dead.
Right, yeah. It's another great image, another good panel. Very, very evocative.
God, this was issue 5, so this is one issue away from the end of this little run.
Yeah, we're getting towards the end there.
And this last issue, I want to talk about the cover again, like I do. Also, the artist that did the books is not the same artist that did the covers. That's why they're so different. This cover has Luke and the Leia, Han Solo wearing his, looks like he's an Endor. Lando, Chewie, Chewbacca. I mean, it has a whole team. It just it's a cool, badass cover.
Yeah, it's definitely an action cover.
I like it.
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
I like seeing, it shows the kids playing with Chewbacca and stuff, where Han Solo in the first part of this issue. And you have the stupid floating Jedi is there.
That's what you're going to call him from now on.
He's an idiot. And this is when They see a shell is heading to New Alderaan because somebody betrayed them and told them where they tracked them. I don't remember what the details were, but somebody betrayed them, and they're now attacking New Alderaan to kill them. And it also flips back to where the Emperor is doing, where he's at this castle on some random planet, which was supposed to be Vader's castle.
Right, yeah.
Oh, they're torturing a pilot, and that's who betrays them. Okay.
Yeah, I like this scene because it's like the castle is very Darth Vader-ish. Before there was Mustafar, there was this castle. So they had invented the idea of Vader having like a retreat where he had all this stuff. And there's a big statue of Vader there. And
there's a whole comic series that talks about it, but that's way, way later.
Okay. Well, it's a cool little scene, a few pages of them here. And then they learn the location of New Alderaan, and the Emperor's like talks to his dark side people and like, go and find him. Get him. Get the children for us.
Yeah, even though he only really wants a new baby for some reason.
Well, yeah.
That's more in the second book.
It's more in the second book, but you don't know why. I guess you don't really know why for this one. But they want the children, I think, just to like mold them into the dark side. I think that's their main purpose.
Okay, and this is when Luke and them are on New Alderaan, and they're talking about how they got to go stop the Empire or stop the Emperor, and this is when he kisses her. Here's the caption. Their hearts bright with waves of unexpected happiness. The two Jedi become oblivious to everything around them. I'm just not okay with this. I mean, they fix it for me real quick, but this is when Luke is sleeping and Luke thinks he's in the movie Mummy and gets attacked by a bunch of beetles, little like robotic beetles that poison him.
Yeah.
Is it Mummy that has that, or am I thinking of
Scarab? Yeah, that has the Scarab beetle.
Okay,
yeah.
Isn't there a Bond movie where he has bugs that come in and kill him or something? I try to kill him.
And Dr. No, somebody releases the tarantula into his bed.
The tarantula wouldn't kill you.
Well, in the 60s, they didn't know that. They were very dumb. So.
That's a good movie, by the way.
Well, in Attack of the Clones, too, they released like a little centipede into, what's her name, Padme's room. You know, in the very beginning. They try to kill her while she's sleeping, and then they...
The good part of that terrible movie. Yeah.
There's some good scenes at the beginning.
Yeah, it gets bad when you start letting Anakin talk too much. When George Lucas started writing, like, this is how a couple sounds like when they're in love. This is how I talk to my wife. Wife, you're as soft. Unlike a desert. A desert's rough, but you're soft. Yeah, he must have. Yeah. All right, so back to what we're talking about. I like how Luke almost dies. Like, he's having a nightmare, and then he pretty much gets poisoned, and he's going to die.
Yeah, exactly, yeah.
You think he would have realized that he was being attacked by scarabs, but, at the same time he's being attacked by scarabs, the Darksiders have made it all the way to his bedroom just to get killed by the Jedi apprentices, even though... And this one, they killed a girl, too. Like, they both get killed. I think Leia kills one of them. Yeah, Leia kills one, the girl kills one, and then she dies, which is good.
Yeah.
She needed to die.
And then there are a bunch of, Jem, poor Jem. And then the bunch of Darksiders come, and it's kind of like, Skyfall or something, where all the villains are converging on this little house in the wilderness. And they all these Darkside people, they're defeated very easily.
Oh, yeah, they pretty much they killed the girl. They almost killed Luke, but then that Jedi that they rescued early, the crazy lady, ends up saving Luke because she had Jedi healing. She's able to Jedi healing.
Yeah, exactly.
And then at the same time, you have a bunch of Imperial walkers that are attacking too.
Yeah.
And you have in one scene, the Darksiders take the two kids, and then in one panel, in the very next panel, the kids are being taken away as they're being murdered. The Darksiders being murdered. What the? Right. They just kill these guys too easily.
Yeah, it's a little bit. I feel like they could have done better with fewer. They could have done with fewer Darkside people and made it kind of more dramatic. Like have them be more of a threat. Instead, there's 15 of these guys.
Yeah,
and it's like, where is he coming from? Give them 4 guys and kill them. Every few issues or whatever, and then maybe we make it a little bit more dramatic.
This also surprised me. This book kind of just ends without anything really happening. Like they fight back the Darksiders, they kill them all. Yeah. They go to some new city where the rebels are making their base because they escaped from the Empire that was fighting them on that planet. And they find out that Mon Mothma and Akbar that they survived when they thought everybody was dead when the planet blew up. And then the book just kind of ends. Yeah,
it definitely seems like it was meant to set up another book instead of... It does end in a sense where they free them, they defeat the Imperials on the planet, but yeah, it kind of just ends with a fizzle. The other one, the first book ended with the Emperor getting subsumed in a big cloud of the Force or whatever. Yeah, it's kind of a dramatic way.
big ending. And then that wraps up Dark Empire 2, and then we're going to talk about the final part of this trilogy, which came out, Star Wars Empire's End, which I want to say it came out in 1995 in October.
Yeah, here's just how rushed it was. I'll tell you the dates. It was the last Dark Empire was May 95, and then this one came out October and November of 1995. So basically, they had a summer to do this issue.
Which to me is just weird because like Dark Empire 1 and 2, there's a year in between them, and this is only 2 issues. So do you know why this is so short?
Well, here's the thing. So in an interview with Tom, I think it's Tom Veidt, the writer of these. So I was reading online, and what happened was, so they wanted to do a book in between 1 and 2. They wanted to do like a novella or an illustrated novella that talked about Cam and talked about Cedrus and talked about the Darksiders. But apparently there was problems with the contract to that. So Cam Kennedy, the artist, quit after the second one and said, we're not going to, because if I can't do that one, then I'm not going to do a third book. So he quit, and they had to scramble to get a new artist for the second one. And I think Tom Veidt said, in fact, that it was rushed. And they wanted to capitalize on the hype of it, and they wanted to end it so really soon after that. And I think there's probably more to it, but for what I could gather, it was just they acknowledged that it was very rushed to go, and it was probably due to like contracting and legal stuff, and that's why.
Yeah, it just feels so weird that you have the first 2 parts or 6 series, and this is just 2 issues.
Yeah, and I don't know why it's so.
And there's a lot left up in the open at this point.
Yeah,
and the art is so different that everything has more color. It's not just like subdued to like 1 color per page type of thing now. It's more like a normal comic.
Yeah, it's
still artsy, but more normal.
It's a little artsy, but it tries to do some of the stuff of with the colors and everything, but it's not watercolor. And I don't like the artists as much. The faces are not as dramatic. The faces look much more cartoony in a lot of these people.
Yeah,
especially the Emperor, and I don't like the Emperor in this.
I don't like this art either. I prefer the other book.
Yeah, it's just a big drop. But yeah, it looks more like a regular comic, but it's a huge drop off. Like Cam Kennedy was a very talented artist, and he could do, for the men at least, we'll say that he'd do good faces. And I think this artist is many steps below him.
Yeah, it's just not as good. And this book is just not as good either. It feels so rushed. Like it starts off talking about the Osis planet and how the elders there are upset that they found out that one of their people is dead, and then it cuts back to what the rebels are doing, where the rebels are all like hiding around on like a big ship has most of their fleet. And and then I think their whole fleet even gets wiped out by almost gets wiped out by a missile.
Their whole fleet, well, part of it, the rebel troop ship gets destroyed by the Galaxy Gun projectile.
Okay.
Which from the first book destroyed Rebel New Alderaan. This one destroys the troop ship of the Empire. The Emperor is very glad about that. But he's like, he wants to keep firing. They want to fire at, he says there will be no more demonstrations. It's time to end this war. And about this time you learn that his Emperor's physician is trying to tell him to please control yourself. You're not doing well. And like all evil people, he's like, no, I don't care, doctor. I must keep going. So you get the sense that something's gone wrong with him.
Okay, so it isn't until Empire's End that they talk about it. And
yeah,
to me, it's just like, again, one of the special things about the Galaxy Guns, it could destroy a planet, it could destroy a city, it could destroy a ship. So that was so special about it. It could destroy whatever you needed to destroy. It's not just, even though I think Death Star was still better, but hey.
Yeah. I mean, it's like Starkiller based in that it could destroy something from across the galaxy. It was a hyperspace weapon, basically. So it was supposed to be better than the Death Star. Like, a Death Star could only destroy something right in front of it, but this one...
Yeah, and you had to wait until it aimed and aimed and aimed.
But, this was criticized, I know, for kind of saying every Star Wars comic had to have a super weapon that, it would be the big thing, then it would get blown up. And then they did it in the books a few times, so there was another super weapon that would get blown up after being touted as this huge problem. And it's like, many people wanted something new from Star Wars. It's like, let's not see a new weapon each comic or each book. Let's see something else with this thing.
Yeah, I don't think you need that all the time, but yeah, I'm not surprised.
So the rebels are on this spaceport called Nespis, 8. And
which is some like ancient city or something
Yeah.
from the Sith. They keep talking about the Sith War in this off and on, and I think in this book especially.
Yeah, they do. They talk about it a little bit in the other book, but they do talk about it here too. They don't really explain it. I think at this time there were other comics that were talking about that.
Because the
So I
Sith
think that's
War
linked to that.
is a comic series too, right? The
Yeah.
Great Sith War or something.
Yeah, and that's in there. I think there was, who was there called XR Kun or something, who had the double lightsaber. I think he was the big villain of that. And that was all like 4,000 years before, Luke Skywalker or whatever. But I never really read those, so I can't speak to what those are about. I know they're related. They are what they're talking about in here. So.
Okay, and this is where you find out like that one of the workers on the Millennium Falcon for the Rebels is actually a spy and was the one to train them to the Empire, and then the Empire sends a shell from the Galaxy Gun to Nespis, but the shell doesn't explode. It's a dud.
Yeah.
So I guess the timer's off.
Yeah, and I was always disappointed in that. I felt like, Luke or something Luke should have used his force powers to like disarm the weapon or something, like just barely, instead of it being just, it was just a malfunctioning one. Like how coincidental is that? They just happened to fire the bad one at Luke. Yeah. Let's have Luke. Let's just show Luke like raise his arm and like turn off the timing switch or something.
Something versus just, like you said, a dud. So then they get enough time to escape before the Empire shoots another one that then does blow up and destroys the city as they're escaping. Yeah.
It doesn't. It's just a happy accident. It's not the Force. Like, I want our heroes to actually have some agency here. So yeah.
Yeah, not just we got lucky. And this is when you see the Eclipse 2, I think it is, because the Eclipse 1 was in Dark Empire and that got destroyed in the last panel. When it just showed up.
So they go to the Emperor. Emperor shoots another projectile, and Emperor's like thinks everything's fine, but he knows. It says here that he knows that if he dies, he'll go to the dark side, a perpetual madness. It's a fate Palpatine wants to postpone at all costs, which I didn't really talk about in the other ones. It just, I guess, if you die, you'll be in permanent madness if you believe in the dark side or something. Anyway, he has a giant Star Destroyer called Eclipse 2, which is. He's built another gigantic super weapon, which must be very expensive to build this giant machine.
And at the same time they showed that, then it shows Luke. I guess the rebels make the choice that, Luke goes on his own and he attacks Vader's castle where he can sense that Palpatine is.
Yeah.
I think this is where him, the Jedi, Cam, they all go, the little floating Jedi Brannard brain, he goes. This is when you see the statue of Vader that he ends up throwing on a person.
Yeah, they use it to crush the dark side adepts in it.
And they kill these guys so easily.
Yes. And there's so many of them and they die so easily, which I think is a minus.
And then they find out that the elders that were taken were like frozen in kryptonite and killed.
Yeah, carbonite.
Oh, carbonite. Yeah. Wrong stone.
Wrong universe.
I can't remember if they're dead or he just can't free them. I don't remember.
They can't free them. There's no control panels, they say.
Oh, I see.
They never resolve it either. So they never say, you got unfrozen at the end. They just kind of leave them there.
And should we say how the second cover makes no sense? Because so the second cover, Empire's in the last of the series is Palpatine on the cover, a bad looking Palpatine, and royal guards in the background that have not showed up all previous 13 issues.
Yeah, they're not even in this issue. So it's just like, I wonder.
Why are they on the cover?
Yeah, it's so weird.
It's so rushed, and that's what bothers me, because it's like this should have been at least 4 issues, not just 2, and you can just feel the rushness in this comic.
Yeah.
I mean, this should have been 6 issues. This should not have been 2.
That's always my problem with this series. I think the first 2 issues first 2, books are very strong, but then it just kind of fizzles out, and it's very unfortunate. It should have had a much better ending.
Yeah, because it's not enough, and you can tell they didn't know what to do. Because they have to kill the Emperor. I mean, you kill the Emperor in the first book, and then you bring him back in the second book, you have to wrap it up.
Yeah.
And they're like, we'll give you 2 issues.
Right, yeah.
to wrap up this complex story. And the second issue starts off with Palpatine at like on the Sith planet.
Yeah.
This is the same one that's then Korriban. That was made canon in Rise of Skywalker, right?
It kind of. They call it something else, but it's the same deal. Like it's like Morabon or something. It's like so similar. They just changed like one letter.
Because I know you go to a Sith planet also in KOTOR, and I thought that was Korriban, but it's been a long time since
I think in KOTOR, because that was the old canon, so I think it's Korriban in that planet, in that game.
Yep, it is.
Yeah, and so this was the first thing to design it. It's a cool scene. It's only a few pages, but it's like the tombs of the Sith. I think it's very creepy.
And Sith dogs. Good. Don't forget the Sith dogs in the tombs.
Yeah, the Sith dogs are there. That's creepy too. You know.
The dead are talking to him, and then this is when the dead tell him he has to inhabit Anakin Skywalker, who's a baby.
Right. Yeah.
Okay, that's so stupid. Okay, because originally the reason he captured the elders because he was going to use their DNA to make a clone with Jedi DNA. That's what it was.
Okay. Yeah.
But instead, he gets the wonderful idea that I'm going to capture a baby instead. I'm going to inhabit a baby.
Rosemary's Baby style.
And he tells his Darksiders that they have to protect him while he grows up, even though that goes against everything in the Sith. If you are weak, you are crushed. They take over everything against the Sith. But you'll protect me and train. Yeah, you'll take care of me, right? While I grow up. Yeah. Huh. Okay. I can't tell you how. Like I just thought about it now. Like that goes against everything the Sith believe in.
He needs. You know what he needs? He needs a droid. He should have had a droid.
Yeah, a droid would make sense because a droid wouldn't betray him. But the Sith are brought up, and everything is started with the Sith. If you are stronger than your master, you kill your master. Period. That's how this works.
Yeah. Rush.
And then it shows the old lady's still alive, and it shows Leia, Han, and Anakin, their baby Anakin on the ship. And I think you see Palpatine like getting all like shocked or something. Isn't he attacked by... Oh, this is when they talk about battle meditation, where Leia's trying to learn battle meditation, which is in the first KOTOR game.
Yeah.
And I like that the fact that they talk about that here. And it shows her, I think, using battle meditation against Palpatine, which somehow shocks him or something.
Somehow.
Again, it's too rushed. There should have been some... I think, like, the old Jedi tells her about, and all of a sudden she can do it. Like, there should have been something else. And just, what did we learn today, Leia? I taught you how to defeat the Emperor that's been giving you trouble for the last 10 years. This is what you do.
Right.
You lay back, hold your baby, close your eyes, and attack him with your mental powers. Okay, I just had to get that off.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. I agree.
And don't they take out... So is this... Okay, so the Millennium Falcon then is approaching Eclipse 2, and they're trying to suck them in with a tractor beam, and they just shoot missiles inside where they were, and then that takes them out. Wouldn't something stop that?
Yeah, it doesn't, I guess. I mean, shouldn't the missiles be deflected too by the tractor beam or whatever?
Or something. You think that if you sucking in a ship, you deactivate their power, not like, it's okay if they shoot us in. We're just... Well,
that's what happened in the Death Star. You know, they couldn't fire in the first movie, A New Hope, when they kind of just get sucked in. They can't use their power or whatever. But here, it's just an action scene, unnecessary. There's no reason for it to be here, other than it shows the Emperor killing an Imperial lightning, and that's like the only reason.
It's stupid. But again, it's everything with this book just feels so rushed. Like you have them on some planet, Han Solo and them getting their ship fixed. Wow, I said that wrong. In some great city that's never been mentioned before. They're in there for repairs, and then they leave right away, and then they're on they look like these weird monsters that they're running off to hide in the woods or something.
Yeah, they're like 2 panels, and they go to this planet on the first page, and the next page they're already flying away. It's like, what's going on here? And then they land on a big aircraft carrier, and it's like the children are being sent away safely of this big animal, and Han's going somewhere else, or the Millennium Falcon's going somewhere else.
Which makes no sense.
Then the rebels attack Eclipse 2, and very poorly drawn ships, I might add. I mean, the Y-Wing does not look like a Y-Wing, if you ask me. But they fire on it, and there's a big space battle. They're watching it on the planet below. There's these winged creatures that are there.
So weird, and again, so rushed. And you have Cam and Luke and are attacking the Eclipse 2 to kill the Emperor, but then they find out the Emperor is not there, so then they go to the ground. Like
there's just a guy in his chair.
and it's just
like, why is this here?
It feels like there should be more issues expanding it. And again, you have another Darksider that are still alive, and Luke kills them, or Leia kills them. They die pretty quickly, and then Leia's whole guardian is just some random woman who's just at this little temple, and they bring this old guy. Oh, I need to see that woman that you brought in.
Yeah, that was hilarious. She was like, "This old man insists on meeting you. He seems so gentle and so kind." It's like you dip. don't let him in.
Like, is this a Disney movie now? Like,
yeah, and she's wearing like a blue dress and a headband. It's like, what?
And why would he just, like, oh, he used the Force? He would just kill her and kill the guards.
It's so weird. It's such a weird turn. And he just turns into like a bumbling old man.
Yeah.
He's like, oh no. In the previous books, he was just so evil and so cunning and, but this is he's like the Wicked Witch of the West or something,
I don't like it. I really, really don't like it. And then he shocks, and he has these 2 followers with him too that are just like idiots. And then she throws them back. He's like, "Curse you, Jedi!" It's like, this is not Palpatine. And then he shocks her, and he shocks 3PO, who's holding the baby. The baby would be dead at this point,
right?
And then he grabs the baby from 3PO, and then the woman grabs the baby back from Palpatine.
Yeah.
The floating Jedi guy shows up, gets shocked and almost killed by Palpatine because he got shot by the same electric blast that didn't kill the baby, but killed him, killed this guy. And the other random Jedi that who has no training, who joined Luke, cuts off one of the Darksiders' hands. Again, no skill, no training whatsoever, but he can fight. Gets killed by Palpatine by the same shock that hit the baby. It didn't kill the baby, and then Palpatine is too weak to go on.
I'm too weak.
And Luke can't kill him because for some reason if Luke kills him, he'll become Palpatine, which I don't think works that way. Palpatine is trying to grab the baby, and then Han Solo shoots Palpatine in the back.
Right. That's what does it. I mean, that's all this is leading up to just shooting him in the back.
The whole thing is, I guess, if Luke kills him, it does. I mean, I understand in certain aspects, in Rise of Skywalker, you have the whole scene where he's like, "Good, strike me down, use your hate." I mean, he's operated this whole scene of events to happen, or in Return of the Jedi, use your hate, strike me down, Skywalker. He's manipulating him. This is just an old man who says, if you kill me, you'll be just like me. There'll be 2 murderers. This is not how it works. This is not Batman. This is not how it works.
Yeah, I mean, it kind of reminds you of the Mace Windu Anakin scene. He's like, no, it's not the Jedi way to kill him. But Mace Windu's like, no, I've got to kill him. And you're kind of like, well, maybe you can kill this one guy, I guess. He's pretty much the baddest guy in the galaxy, so. And
he has too much power. And then after he gets shot, he ends up becoming a little ball of light and tries to attack the baby, to go inside the baby, which again would not really solve anything because you're a baby and they're going to keep the baby or they're going to kill the baby if you're in it. You're not going to win. Right. So instead, the weird Jedi in a cyborg body jumps in the way and he goes inside him, and then he uses his Jedi powers to defeat Palpatine, and he dies.
Yeah. So when King Bran dies, he takes the Spear of the Emperor with him.
That's how one of the greatest villains is killed.
First he's shot in the back, and then he's killed by a floating Jedi guy.
And I don't even understand what happens after here. So they're still fighting the Executioner too. I guess some of the rebels, like Chewie and Lando, had snuck in. And on one little area, they're able to change the hyperdrive and shoot the ship off somewhere. And then the ship crashes into the gun and destroys the gun.
That's what happens.
The gun launched a missile. The missile blows up the Eclipse too.
Well, the missile, so R2 sent the ship into hyperdrive. They didn't set this up at all. And it happens to hit exactly the Galaxy Gun. And the Galaxy Gun fires at that exact moment, and it hits the Imperial planet Biss. And it blows up the planet and the Eclipse at the same time.
And the last page of the Millennium Falcon flying away, and it says, "Long live the New Republic."
Yeah. Well, Chewie's saying that, it's just translating for us. And that's all we get. We just get the last thing is this planet exploding with probably millions dead.
Can you say rushed?
And that's it. There's no even celebration. There's no follow-up or anything.
No, it's just the end. It's just stupid.
I do have, I don't know if you can see it, but I have a trade paperback, and it has an epilogue there where it says, they established the New Republic. The Republic is reborn again by Mon Mothma. Coruscant becomes a seat. And Vima Dabota disappears mysteriously after the victory celebration. They suspected she's gone to live with the Force. And then it's like Luke Skywalker has decided to set up the Jedi Academy to continue the work of the Jedi Knights. That's what the epilogue says. So he gives a brief description that's I guess we couldn't show that. You just had to tell us that.
It's so stupid.
It's the end. That's the last.
And it could have been so much better.
Yes.
And that's what bothers me is that, like, I think I was a little warm on Dark Empire, but I really, really enjoyed Dark Empire 2. And then this Empire's End just was like, bleh, just bleh, just bleh. That's all I got. It's terrible.
It leaves you a bad taste. And I agree. Yeah, it's not. Empire's End is not a good.
And it sucks because this is a good ending to a series and they just made it trash.
Yeah. And it's for whatever it was. It must have been business, contractual reasons or whatever. They had to rush it, money reasons. And it's just so dumb that that's what happened. And it doesn't deserve this kind of ending.
No, it did not deserve what it gets.
Yeah. So it's sad, but that's what we have to accept.
Any last things that you want to say about this book before we go to shelf, stacker, box?
No, let's go right to it.
Okay, I'll go first. We're going to put Dark Empire 2 as one item and then Empire's End as another item since they are technically two different things. Dark Empire 2 is going to go on the shelf. I came into the book because everyone's always told me before, this is stupid, this is the worst one, you're not, Dark Empire is a good one, Dark Empire 2 is the bad one. And I wasn't super crazy about Dark Empire, if I remember correctly.
Yeah.
I was blown away by how much I enjoyed Dark Empire 2. So it's going on the shelf, and I'm really glad we read it. And Empire's End is going in the box because it's rushed and it's garbage and it's stupid. It's the end of the story, but couldn't they just wait and finish it up some other time?
All they had to do was wait a little bit. Maybe they were trying to get Shadows of the Empire underway, but it's too bad.
Yeah, so it's going in the box. What about you?
I'm with you. I think Dark Empire 2 is a worthy successor. I put it on the shelf. I don't like it as much as Dark Empire, but I do think it has good action scenes, and it has that same, wonderful art that I love. Empire's End, on the other hand, put it in a dusty box and, look at it once for complete's sake, but don't ever look at it again. The art is terrible, the storyline's rushed and terrible, and then the characters make any good decisions. Other than the Sith planet, I don't know there's much redeeming value it has in any sense. So, yeah, box it is.
Okay. That's about what I expected.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that wraps up everything we need to say about this. But if you still are in the Star Wars kick and you want to hear us talk about more Star Wars, definitely check out Star Wars Dark Empire comic that we did before. You can find it. It's not published at the moment of this recording, so I can't tell you what comic episode it is, but it's in there. I think it's probably like 28. Definitely go read that. Or listen to that. And then we also did Star Wars Force Unleashed 115, Star Wars The Mandalorian Season 2, TV 1, Star Wars Bounty Hunter, Episode 87, Star Wars Knights of the Old Republic Part 1 and 2, Episode 69, Star Wars Darth Vader, Dark Lord of the Sith, which talks about his castle and is part of the Disney canon, comic Episode 6, Star Wars Shadow of the Empire, Episode 48, Star Wars Holiday Special, Film 6, Star Wars Republic Commando, Episode 21, and our first Star Wars episode ever on the show, Star Wars Dark Forces, Episode 13.
Oh, great episode.
Got a lot of Star Wars stuff, actually. We're getting more, which is nice.
Yeah.
We need more. I really should do the movies one day to add to my whole list of stuff. But
You should.
One day. It's going to happen because I want to, but these comics are so tempting because it's all brand new information for me. So, And if you want to support the show, we have a Patreon for as little as $1 a month. You can vote in our Patreon poll that we have each month. And also for $10 a month, I will promote your podcast or YouTube channel 4 times in the month. So definitely head on to our Patreon and take a look at what we offer, and we can help each other out. And also want to give and Peter, where can people find your book at?
Search for The Fifth Civilization on Amazon. That's the easiest way to find it. You can buy The Fifth Civilization in Kindle form or in paperback form, just like an old-fashioned book.
Paperback, no. No, paperback writer.
Paperback writer.
And there will be a link in the show notes to his book you can buy on Amazon. And I want to give a shout out to our awesome intro and outro, courtesy of Bobby, a.k.a. Mike Sony from ZP Bite the Bullet, Song The Cool Kid Squad. Definitely go check him out. We see a link in the show notes to his YouTube channel. And I want to give a shout out to our friend of the show, Bill Tucker, who started his own podcast earlier this year called Gamer Looks at 40. So definitely go check that out. And please follow us on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and on YouTube. We are on YouTube. You can follow us all on those different things. And please go check out our huge backlog of episodes that we have done over the course of almost 3 years. So go check all that out. And we will see you guys all next time. Bye, everybody.
Goodbye.